lesson 9.15, and today we're going to be problem solving with fractions. So if you look on page 276 in your book, you're going to see our problem solving path. And this is just a reminder, we have to understand what is the question asking us. We need to analyze the data. We need to plan the strategy. We need to solve the problem and then evaluate your result. And you see that there on your page. So I want to talk to you today about a man named George Mueller. He was a missionary from Germany in the 1800s. And one of his main accomplishments in his orphan ministry in England was an orphan ministry. So throughout his life, he had built large orphan houses and took care of over 10,000 orphans. So today what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at his name, and we're going to make fractions from the letters in his name. So what we're going to do first is look at the word George, and we're going to find what's the fraction of vowels in the letters of his name. Well, if we look at George, we can say vowels 1, 2, 3, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 letters. So we would say it's 3/6, and then we would recognize that 3/6 needs to be in simplest form. So the simplest form of 3/6 would be 1/2. So George's first name has half vowels compared to consonants. Now let's do the same thing to Mueller. 1, 2, 3. Well, 3, but except Mueller has 7 letters. So we're going to say there's 3 vowels to the 7 letters in his name. And that's already in simplest form because 3 can't go into 7 in any way. Now let's look at both names, George and Mueller. Well, we know that 6 and 7, there's 6 names here, letters here, and 7 letters here. So that's 13 for our denominator. And then if we count the vowels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6/13 would be the fraction that we would use to describe vowels to all the letters in his name. And if we can look, we know that 6 doesn't have anything that goes into 13, so we are in simplest form. Well, let's do the same thing with the missionary. Missionary has 10 letters, and it has 5 vowels. We would also know that 5 is a multiple of 10, so in simplest form, 5 divided by 5 is 1, 10 divided by 5 is 2. So 1/2 of the letters in missionary are vowels. We'll do the same thing with orphanage. It has 9 letters. And we count the vowels, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4/9. Is it in simplest form? Because you always have to ask that question. Multiples of 4 don't go into 9, so 4/9 would be the simplest form. And lastly, let us look at the number of words we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 words. And how many of those words have 3 letters? 1, 2, 3, 4. So half of the words, because we know that 4/8 in simplest form will be 1/2. Half of the words in this sentence have 3 letters. So this is just a little example of how we can use fractions in our story problem. Now we're going to work on your lesson. If you would head over to number 1 on your practice section on lesson 9.15, I'm going to read the problem and let's see how we can solve this using our problem solving path. It says some students in a sewing class are making aprons. The front of the apron is made of 1 3/4 yards of material. The waistband ties require 1/4 yard of material. How much material is needed for one apron? Well, we already know we have to understand the question, how much material is needed for one apron? Well, if 1 3/4 yard is needed to make most of the apron and 1/4 of a yard is needed to make the last part of the apron, the ties, what should we do? What's our strategy? Well, that means we should be adding. So what we're going to do is 1 3/4 plus 1/4. We notice our denominators are the same. And then we add our numerators, 3 and 1 is 4. And then we have 1 plus 0 1 and 4/4, but we see that 4/4 is also another whole. So that was going to be 1 also. So 1 plus 4/4, which is 1, is going to equal 2. So you're going to need 2 yards of material to make this apron. So hopefully you can see that, and let's work on our second problem. The 4th grade class made 4 dozen muffins for their grandparents' day celebration. 1/3 were pumpkin, 1/2 were raisin, and 1/6 were blueberry. Draw a circle graph that shows this information. Okay, we really don't need to know the number of muffins, although I can say 4 times a dozen, which is 12, would be about 48. But the question isn't asking us that. What is the question asking us? Is telling us actually to draw a circle graph. So I drew a circle, and the biggest part of my circle, or I should say the smallest part of my circle, is going to be 6. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this into 6. So I'm going to have one line going down the middle, and then I'm going to crisscross lines to make 6 parts. There's 1 and 2. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, I know that 1 part, or let's see, 1/3 part is pumpkin. Well, let's do. We have 6 parts, so how can we do 3 parts? So let's put these together. Let's say that this is 1/3, these 2 are 1/3, and these 2. So 2 parts is going to equal 1/3. So I'm going to take 2 parts, and this is going to be my pumpkin, which is going to be 1/3. Now I know half of the muffins were raisin. Well, I can automatically just say this half. Half is going to be 3 parts, and excuse my messiness here, but we're going to say half are raisin. And then finally, we have 1/6 are blueberry. Well, we have the 6 parts, and this is only 1/6, so this is going to be our blueberry part. So I hope that your circle graph looks a little bit better than mine here, but this would be an example. I'm going to do one more problem with you, and then I'll have you do the rest by yourself. We're having another grandparents assembly, and 24 grandparents attended. 1/3 for the first presentation, 1/2 for the second presentation, and 1/6 for both. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say 1/3 of 24. Well, if you remember, we can divide this. 24 divided by 3 is 8. 8 times 1 is still 8. So remember, we go ahead and we divide, and then we can times as necessary to give us our answer. So only 8 grandparents came to the first presentation. 1/2 of 24. 24, half of 24, I already know is 12. 12 came to the second presentation, and then 1/6 of 24, as I know 6 goes into 24 4 times, and 4 grandparents actually went to both of them. So try to use your problem solving path to help you with the problems. You're going to continue doing another one by yourself, and then you're going to do a review talking about Grandparents' Day and what fraction shows the fraction part of the Grandparents' Day. So go ahead and work on this, continue finishing the lesson, and please call me if you have any questions. We have a test in just a couple of days, so please call me if you have any questions.